If you knew that one sentence, just one, could make her heart race and her memory hold on to you long after the conversation ends, would you still waste your time with weak lines like, "You're hot"? Think about that, because the difference between a forgettable interaction and a moment she remembers months later is often nothing more than a single sentence spoken at the right time. Most men completely underestimate the power of their words. They believe attraction is built on appearance, money, or status alone. And while those things play a role, the truth, one that psychology has shown again and again, is that what people remember most is not what they saw, but how they felt in your presence. Maybe someone once said something to you years ago that still echoes in your mind today, not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. Have you ever watched a woman's entire energy change because of something someone said? Her posture shifts, her eyes brighten, her smile appears almost instantly, and suddenly the atmosphere of the conversation feels completely different. That's the quiet power of intentional words. One thoughtful sentence can completely change the way someone sees you, not just for a moment, but sometimes for years. And today, we're going to explore something fascinating together. 8 compliments that go far beyond surface-level flattery. These are psychologically meaningful compliments. These are the kind that make a woman feel seen and respected on a deeper level. Now let's begin with something most people overlook completely: fragrance. Psychology tells us that of all the human senses, smell is the most directly connected to the brain's emotional and memory centers. Scent connects strongly to the limbic system, responsible for emotions and memories. That's why a single scent can instantly transport you back to another moment in time. Perhaps a summer evening years ago, a hug from someone you once loved. Scent has the strange ability to bypass logic and go straight to emotion. And that's why the simple compliment, "That fragrance you're wearing is addictive. It smells amazing," can have a surprisingly powerful impact. Because you're not just saying she smells good, you're telling her that her presence lingers in your mind even after she's gone. And that is an intoxicating idea. But here is the important detail many men miss. The way you say something matters far more than the sentence itself. Imagine 2 different scenarios. In one moment, a compliment is blurted out nervously. In the next, it's said with genuine presence, same words, completely different impact. The Stoics believed a wise person speaks deliberately, not excessively. Their words carry weight. Next time you notice a woman's fragrance, pause. Notice it genuinely, then say it calmly. "That fragrance you're wearing is addictive. It smells amazing." Not loudly, just sincerely. Now consider her smile. Psychologists describe it as emotional energy made visible. When you say, "Your smile could brighten an entire room," you're acknowledging the emotional influence she carries. Most compliments focus on appearance, but recognizing impact acknowledges character. That is why these moments stay in someone's memory. What's a compliment you've never forgotten? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. These conversations are what make this community so insightful. They perform, and in that environment, authenticity becomes something surprisingly rare. So when you tell a woman, "I love how real you are, you don't try to fit in, you're just yourself," you're acknowledging something courageous. Because being authentic isn't always easy. In fact, it often comes with risk. It means being honest when honesty might not be popular. It means standing out when everyone else is trying to blend in. It means showing imperfections instead of hiding them. And psychologically speaking, people crave recognition for that courage. Authenticity is deeply tied to something called self-determination theory, a framework that explains human motivation. According to this theory, people feel most fulfilled when 3 needs are met: autonomy, competence, and connection. Authenticity is directly connected to autonomy, the ability to live in alignment with who you truly are. So when someone recognizes that authenticity, it feels incredibly validating. It says, "I see the real you." And in a world full of masks, that kind of recognition feels refreshing, almost relieving. And when a woman hears that from someone who genuinely means it, it creates a moment of emotional openness. Because now she knows she doesn't need to perform. She can simply be herself. And that, my friend, is where real connection begins, but we're only getting started. The next compliment goes even deeper. It speaks directly to a woman's mind, not just her personality. When someone feels intellectually seen, something powerful happens. Like this video if you're enjoying this so far. It helps the channel grow and lets me know you'd like to see more thoughtful discussions like this. Alright, let's continue, because the next compliment might be one of the most meaningful of them all, and it has everything to do with the way someone sees the world, the way a woman sees the world. Most daily conversations stay on the surface. They revolve around schedules, tasks, and small talk. But every once in a while, you meet someone who thinks differently, someone who questions things. When you say, "I love the way you see the world, it's so unique," you're acknowledging her mind. Research shows that deep emotional connection occurs when someone feels intellectually understood, not just heard. Imagine how many times she hears about her appearance, but appreciating her mind touches a deeper layer of identity. You're not admiring the surface. You're admiring the engine behind the surface, her mind. Intellectual stimulation plays a larger role in long-term attraction than people expect. It's the key to real depth. When someone consistently makes us think, reflect, or see things from a new angle, our brain begins to associate that person with mental excitement. And excitement is closely tied to attraction. So when you say, "The way you see the world really makes me think," you're not simply giving a compliment. You're inviting deeper conversation. You're telling her, "Your mind intrigues me." And that is a doorway into meaningful connection. Now here's something important to remember. Curiosity is the secret ingredient. If you compliment someone's perspective but never actually listen to it, the compliment becomes empty. But when you say those words and then follow them with curiosity, something magical happens. You might say, "The way you see the world really makes me think. I'd love to hear more about how you came to that perspective." Now suddenly the conversation opens. Now you're not just exchanging words, you're exploring ideas together. And that is where emotional intimacy begins. Let's move to something else that plays a surprisingly powerful role in attraction: energy. You felt it before, even if you've never used that word to describe it. Some people walk into a room and everything feels heavier. Their complaints dominate the conversation. Their negativity drains the atmosphere, and after 10 minutes with them, you feel strangely tired. But then there are people who have the opposite effect. They walk into the room and suddenly things feel lighter, more hopeful, more alive. They laugh easily. They listen attentively. They bring warmth into the space around them. That's what people often describe as positive energy. And when you tell a woman, "I love your energy," it's contagious. It makes me want to be the best version of myself. You're offering one of the highest compliments someone can receive, because you're saying that her presence has an uplifting effect on you. You're acknowledging influence, not superficial charm, influence. Think about that for a moment. To know that your presence inspires someone else to grow, to know that simply being who you are encourages someone to become better. That's a deeply meaningful message. Psychologists call this phenomenon emotional contagion. It's the idea that emotions spread from person to person through subtle cues, tone of voice, facial expressions, posture, enthusiasm. When someone consistently brings positivity, motivation, or warmth into interactions, others naturally begin to mirror that energy. So when you tell a woman that her energy inspires you to be better, you're recognizing the psychological impact she has on people around her. And that recognition is powerful. But again, sincerity matters. A compliment like this should never feel exaggerated. It should come from genuine observation. Maybe she encourages people. Maybe she brings optimism to difficult situations. Maybe she approaches life with enthusiasm. Whatever it is, notice it first. Then acknowledge it. Now let's talk about something even deeper: thoughtfulness. In a world that often celebrates self-promotion and personal success, genuine thoughtfulness sometimes goes unnoticed. But emotionally intelligent people see it. They notice the small gestures, the way someone remembers details about others, the way someone checks in when they sense something is wrong, the way someone quietly helps without asking for recognition. When you say, "You're honestly one of the most thoughtful people I've ever met," you really care about others and it shows. You're speaking directly to a person's character. And character-based compliments are incredibly powerful. Why? Because character is something people work hard to build. Kindness requires intention. Empathy requires awareness. Compassion requires emotional strength. And when someone recognizes those qualities, it validates something meaningful about who you are as a person. I once spoke with a woman who told me the compliment she valued most in her life wasn't about beauty, success, or intelligence. It was something her grandfather told her when she was young. He said, "You have a good heart, don't ever lose that." She told me that sentence guided many of her decisions throughout life. That's the impact character-based compliments can have. They reinforce identity. They strengthen the traits people want to nurture in themselves. So when you recognize thoughtfulness in someone, you're not just offering praise. You're reinforcing something beautiful about their character. And that brings us to another powerful quality: drive, purpose, ambition. Now, ambition is often misunderstood. Some people think ambition means chasing success endlessly or competing with everyone around you. But healthy ambition is something different. It's the quiet determination to grow, to learn, to create something meaningful with your life. And when you say to a woman, "I love how driven you are," your sense of purpose is inspiring. You're recognizing the effort behind her journey. Because purpose rarely comes easily. It requires discipline, sacrifice, persistence. There are late nights, moments of doubt, moments when quitting would feel easier. But purpose-driven people keep going, and when someone notices that dedication, it means more than you might imagine, especially in a world where many people are quick to criticize ambition. Recognizing someone's drive communicates respect. It says, "I see how hard you work. I respect your commitment. I admire your vision." And admiration is far more powerful than simple attraction. But we're not finished yet, because the final compliment we're going to explore touches something deeply human: our need to feel valued, and the way some people have a remarkable ability to make others feel seen and comfortable. That's what we'll explore next. And it might be the most meaningful compliment of all. But before we continue, let me ask you something. Which compliment so far feels the most meaningful to you personally? The one about authenticity, energy, thoughtfulness, perspective? Share your thoughts in the comments. I always love reading the insights this community brings to these conversations. Now let's continue. Because the final idea we're about to discuss reveals something truly special about human connection, and it explains why certain people leave a lasting impression everywhere they go. Now let's talk about something that is far more powerful than charm, humor, or even confidence: emotional safety. Every human being, whether they realize it or not, is constantly scanning the environment around them, asking a silent question: am I safe here? Not just physically, emotionally. Do I feel respected? Do I feel heard? Do I feel valued? Or do I feel judged, dismissed, or overlooked? And the fascinating thing is that some people have a natural ability to create emotional safety wherever they go. They listen without interrupting. They respond with empathy. They make people feel comfortable enough to be themselves. You've probably met someone like this before. You sit down to talk with them, and within minutes you find yourself sharing stories, ideas, or feelings you normally keep guarded. You feel relaxed, accepted, understood. That ability is called emotional intelligence. And when you say to a woman, "You have this incredible way of making people feel comfortable and truly valued," you're recognizing something extraordinary, because making people feel valued is not a small skill. It's a rare one. In today's fast-moving world, most people are distracted. They're half listening while thinking about their next response. They're looking at their phones. They're mentally somewhere else. But emotionally intelligent people are different. They're present. They make eye contact. They listen carefully. They respond thoughtfully. And when someone feels that level of presence, they feel respected. When you acknowledge this quality in a woman, you're telling her something incredibly meaningful. You make people feel like they matter. And that message reaches deep. Because most people go through their entire day feeling invisible. They move through conversations without feeling truly understood. So when someone recognizes their ability to make others feel valued, it touches something profound. It tells them, that their kindness and emotional awareness are not going unnoticed. Let me share something interesting about this. Psychologists studying relationships often point to something called emotional validation. Validation simply means acknowledging someone's feelings or experiences as real and meaningful. When people feel emotionally validated, their stress decreases, their trust increases, and their sense of connection deepens. That's why people who are good at making others feel valued often become the center of strong social circles. People trust them. People open up to them. People remember them. And when you recognize that quality in someone, you're acknowledging a strength that many people never notice. But here's where this becomes even more powerful. When you compliment someone's emotional intelligence, you are encouraging that quality to grow. Humans naturally strengthen the traits that receive recognition. If someone is praised for their kindness, they often become more intentional about being kind. If someone is recognized for their empathy, they become more aware of how they show up for others. So compliments are not just expressions, they're reinforcements. They shape identity. And that's why thoughtful compliments have a lasting psychological impact. Now, here's something I want you to consider. The compliments we've discussed today all share something important in common. None of them focus only on appearance. Instead, they focus on presence, character, perspective, energy, values. And those are the qualities that form the foundation of meaningful relationships. Because attraction built only on appearance is fragile. But attraction built on admiration, respect, and emotional understanding is incredibly strong. This idea has been discussed by philosophers for centuries. The Stoic philosophers, in particular, believed that the most valuable qualities in life were not external things like wealth or status. They believed the most valuable qualities were internal: wisdom, integrity, compassion, self-control. And interestingly enough, those are the exact qualities that meaningful compliments highlight. When you recognize someone's kindness, you acknowledge compassion. When you admire someone's drive, you acknowledge discipline. When you appreciate someone's authenticity, you acknowledge courage. And when you recognize someone's emotional intelligence, you acknowledge wisdom. Now, I want to pause for a moment and ask you something important. When was the last time someone gave you a compliment that truly stayed with you? Not a casual remark, but something meaningful, something that made you stop and reflect. Take a moment and think about that, because chances are that compliment didn't focus on something superficial. It probably touched something deeper about who you are as a person. That's the kind of compliment people remember for years, and that's the kind of compliment that strengthens relationships. Now, here's something practical you can start doing today. Begin paying attention. Really paying attention. Notice the qualities people bring into conversations. Notice how someone treats others. Notice how someone approaches challenges. Notice how someone listens. Notice how someone expresses curiosity. Most people move through life without truly observing others. But emotionally intelligent people notice details. And those details create opportunities for meaningful connection. Instead of offering automatic compliments, offer thoughtful ones. Instead of commenting on appearance alone, acknowledge character. Instead of speaking quickly, speak intentionally. Let me give you a small exercise. Over the next week, challenge yourself to offer 3 meaningful compliments. Not exaggerated ones, not rehearsed ones, just honest observations. Maybe you tell a colleague, "I admire how calm you stay under pressure." Maybe you tell a friend, "You always know how to make people feel welcome." Maybe you tell someone close to you, "I appreciate how thoughtful you are with the people you care about." Watch what happens when you say those things sincerely. Watch how people respond. You'll notice something fascinating. The conversation becomes warmer, more open, more authentic, because meaningful compliments create emotional safety. And emotional safety is the foundation of trust. Now, before we move into our final thoughts together, I want to thank you for spending this time with me. Conversations like this remind us that relationships are not built on grand gestures. They're built on small, intentional moments of understanding. And if you found this conversation helpful so far, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps this community grow, and it allows us to keep exploring topics that truly matter. Now let's bring everything together, because there's one final truth about compliments and connection that many people overlook. And understanding it can completely change the way you approach relationships. Now let's bring everything together, because there is one final truth about compliments that most people never truly understand. And once you see it, the way you communicate with others will never be the same again. Compliments are not just words, they are reflections. When you compliment someone sincerely, you are reflecting back a quality they may not even realize they possess. Think about that for a moment. So many people walk through life unsure of their value. They question themselves. They doubt their strengths. They wonder whether the effort they put into the world is even noticed. And sometimes, all it takes is one genuine observation from another human being to remind them of who they really are. One sentence, one moment, one acknowledgement. That is the hidden power of thoughtful compliments. They reveal something beautiful that was already there. Now, imagine the difference between two kinds of compliments. One is automatic and forgettable. Nice outfit. You look good. Those are pleasant, of course, but they pass quickly. The other kind goes deeper. I admire how patient you are with people. You have a way of making everyone feel welcome. I love how you always stay calm in difficult situations. Those compliments touch identity. They tell someone something meaningful about themselves, and when people hear that, something interesting happens psychologically. They begin to see themselves through that lens. Psychologists call this reflected appraisal. It's the idea that part of our self-image is shaped by how others perceive us. When someone we respect recognizes a positive quality in us, we often begin to believe in that quality more strongly. That belief can influence our behavior. It can influence our confidence. It can influence the way we move through the world. That's why words matter so much. But here's the key. The power of a compliment depends entirely on sincerity. If words are used carelessly, people feel it. If compliments are given simply to gain attention or approval, they lose their meaning. But when someone speaks thoughtfully, calmly, and honestly, those words carry weight. And this is where the Stoic mindset becomes so powerful. Stoicism teaches us to be intentional with our speech. Not excessive, not manipulative, intentional. A Stoic person doesn't speak simply to impress others. They speak to express truth. So when a Stoic man gives a compliment, it's not loud or exaggerated. It's simple, direct, genuine. And because of that sincerity, it resonates. Now let's revisit the 8 compliments we discussed earlier, because each one reveals a deeper psychological principle. When you compliment a woman's fragrance, you're acknowledging sensory memory. You're recognizing the subtle ways presence lingers in the mind. When you admire her smile and the way it brightens a room, you're recognizing emotional influence. When you appreciate her authenticity, you're honoring courage. When you compliment the way she sees the world, you're acknowledging intellect. When you admire her energy, you're recognizing inspiration. When you notice her thoughtfulness, you're honoring character. When you respect her drive and ambition, you're acknowledging purpose. And when you appreciate her ability to make people feel valued, you're recognizing emotional intelligence. Each of those compliments highlights something deeper than appearance. They highlight who she is. And people remember those moments, not because the words were clever, but because the recognition felt real. Let me share a small story with you. Many years ago, a woman shared something with me during a conversation about relationships. She said that the most memorable compliment she ever received wasn't about beauty or success. It came from a coworker during a difficult time in her life. She had been helping people at work, staying late, supporting others, trying to keep everything together while dealing with her own challenges. One evening, a colleague simply said, "You know, you make this place feel calmer when things get stressful." That was it, just one sentence. But she told me she never forgot it, because in that moment, she realized that the effort she put into helping others actually mattered. Sometimes we underestimate how powerful a simple acknowledgement can be. But when you notice something meaningful about another person and express it sincerely, you create a moment of connection that can stay with them for years. And that's really what today's conversation has been about. Connection, not manipulation, not tricks. Real connection. Because meaningful relationships are built on mutual respect, curiosity, and appreciation. Now, before we close, I want to leave you with something practical. A simple habit that can transform the way you interact with people. Slow down your observations. Pay attention to the qualities people bring into the world. Notice patience, notice kindness, notice resilience, notice curiosity, notice courage. Then when you see something admirable, say it. Not dramatically, not loudly, just honestly. You might be surprised how much those small moments of recognition can strengthen your relationships. And if you start practicing this consistently, you'll notice something else. People will begin to associate you with sincerity and emotional awareness. They'll trust your words because they know you don't speak carelessly. And trust is one of the most attractive qualities any person can have. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of the 8 compliments we talked about today stood out to you the most? Was it the one about authenticity, energy, drive, or emotional intelligence? Share your thoughts in the comments below because your insights often spark some of the most interesting discussions in this community. And if you found value in this conversation, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps the message reach more people who want to build deeper, more meaningful connections in their lives. Thank you for spending this time here today. And remember something important. Words have power, not because they are loud, but because they are intentional. So choose them carefully, use them wisely, and you might be surprised how a single thoughtful sentence can change the way someone remembers you forever.